Yep, 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 yep.
Yes, it's the Finnish football show. Welcome back. After the craziness of the Euros, the Finnish football show team was crazy busy representing Finland across the world's media. You may have noticed. Crazy tired after staying up until 1 a.m. watching too many games of football. And it's been crazy hot, at least here in Finland. I think, Rich, it's been crazy wet over there.
It's been moist. It's not been hot at all. We've been looking at Finland, looking at the tropical temperatures in some jealousy, to be honest. Here, it's not been. I think summer's over here already.
It's nice to calm down and return to a little bit of normality. It's just Rich and I tonight. Mark H is stuck at the office, working hard because lots of people took holiday. Lots of people like Keke, who's not here today because he took a holiday, but we'll let him off. He's a hard-working boy.
He's on a gondola in Maida Vale, I think, singing the Just One Cornetto song.
Yeah, it's a part of London I really don't know very well, around that sort of Little Venice area. So it'd be interesting to see if he shares a few pictures with us. But Rich and I are going to look back at the recent European action for HJK Helsinki, KuPS Kuopio, Turku and Honka. We're going to look forward to upcoming ties also, for HJK and KuPS, and then reflect on a comment from Joni Kauko in our recent episode about transfers to Brexit Britain, which seems to have started to have an effect for Finnish players. We're going to look back at the last month of Veikkausliiga action, which has given us a league table that is tight at both ends. Who misses? We've also had word reach us that Hulkijat and Liverpool legend Sami Hyypiä has listened to the Finnish football show. If you're listening to this episode, Sami, I'd love to invite you on the show and have a conversation with you like we did with Joni Kauko. Let's see where that leads to. But Rich, if you're ready, the referee's about to blow his whistle.
Let's go.
Let's go for the first half of the show and look at the European club competitions. Maybe we can take this team by team. So we'll look at HJK, then look at Inter, Honka, and then we'll finish on KuPS because they're also still going in the competition. For those that haven't followed closely, in the Champions League first qualifying round, HJK won their 2 rounds against Budućnost Podgorica in 3-1 in the first leg at home and then 4-0 in the away leg. They then played Malmö. They lost the first leg 2-1 before getting a decent 2-2 draw, narrowly going out. But it's not all over for them, Rich, is it?
Well, no, because the way the UEFA competitions work is that you can get knocked out several times and keep the teams interested. So HJK, they were really good in the first round. It's hard to gauge teams from other countries, and I can't say I ever watch any Montenegrin football, but they were very convincing in that tie. Against Malmö, they looked, I would say, equal, but they certainly performed well. And the second leg, I think they were quite unlucky. 2-2, there was a decent attendance there, and they played well, but I think it was just one of those that on the over the 180 minutes or so, Malmö proved the stronger, and as they've gone through the next round and knocked Glasgow Rangers out. But HJK have dropped into the Europa League now, so
they're in the third qualifying round, aren't they, at the moment?
Yeah, so they're in the third qualifying round, and it's one of these where if they win, they go through to the playoff round. If they lose, they drop again into the...
I don't mind. We're used to the idea of teams at different stages of the Champions League dropping down to the Europa League. So it kind of makes sense that they might drop from the Europa League to the conference. But for a team to get sort of 3 bites at a sort of slightly smaller cherry each time seems a bit much.
Yeah, and they're certainly making the most of it, to be honest. The system is strange in what it allows them to do. And they played. Oh, my memory's gone. Who did they play?
In the Europa League, Neftchi from
Yes, yeah,
Azerbaijan.
So they are playing the second leg again this week, and to be honest, it's a decent setup for them. I think if they win this tie, because it was 1-1, 2-2 on aggregate,
2-2.
They 2-2. They go through to play Fenerbahce in the playoff round of the Europa League. And if they lose, I think they play either Maccabi Haifa or someone else in the Conference League. So there's always, every draw is so conditional now. HJK have done better in Europe this season than they have done for a bit, to be honest. I mean, they didn't play last year, but over the years, you know, that being supposedly the flag bearer, the biggest Finnish club in many ways, but they've actually looked fairly decent at times. You know, they're streets ahead in the Veikkausliiga, and their kind of goal at the start of the campaign was to be in a group stage of either of the competitions. At this stage, that's still not guaranteed. They still need to win a two-legged tie. So if they get through this round against the team from Azerbaijan, they'll be at least guaranteed group stage of the Conference League,
right?
Which is decent income, 6 games. You know, you probably get a half decent team from one of the big leagues in there as well. So there's still a lot to play for. They've strengthened their squad a lot. They've already earned quite a bit of money just from playing in games so far. So for them, it's gone quite well.
What we should say is that you're sounding a bit husky today, and you were explaining to me before we started that you're recovering from being unwell and that your memory's been going a bit, which is a bit of a shame because you're the one who's got the knowledge of what's been going on in Europe. I kind of zoned out a little bit from football after the Euros. You're right.
Yeah. I contracted COVID at the Euro 2020 final, and after that, I've been a bit unwell. Like the COVID's gone, and I've had some issues. So, mostly memory loss, which for me is quite difficult. And then, I would struggle to get into the KuPS team with my level of fitness at the moment, unfortunately. So.
Well, then I'm here to hopefully prompt you as we go along. And FC Inter were starting. So Inter, Honka and KuPS were starting in the conference from the beginning for the first time. Obviously, it's the first year of the Europa Conference. And Inter played Puskás Akadémia from Hungary, drawing 1-1 at home, but going down 2-0 away. And they dropped from the Europa Conference League into the Veikkausliiga, I understand.
Yeah, pretty much. I mean, some of their recent form has been pretty sketchy as well. But that was disappointing. I mean, I guess Hungary, their league is fairly strong, you know, in these rounds in previous incarnations anyway. So it was a shame. I mean, it was one of the. I mean, I think that club there's some issues that it's kind of either funded or by the Prime Minister of Hungary. It's kind of they come from the town where he's from. It's a very small town. It's not in Budapest, but and their stadium is very ornate thing. There's sort of marvels of architecture. But Inter went out of the first round again, and Honka got through the first round, and they ended up playing in the second round against a team from Slovenia, Domžale, I think it was, and they played the second leg at the Bolt Arena in Helsinki, and they kind of, I mean, they had a good result. I think it's 1-1 away in the first leg. Obviously, this year, away goals don't exist now either. That was the first year they got rid of that. But yes, they've gone back to do their inverted commas home leg, and they had very few fans turned up. And I think from what I saw, I only saw the very brief highlights, and from what I've read, they kind of went down really without much of a fight, which is a bit of a shame. I think they just didn't really turn up on the day. So it's a bit of a shame because it would have been nice to have, you know, another Finnish team flying the flag. To be honest, in this year and last year, it's always been KuPS.
Yeah, they played NSI from the Faroe Islands in the first round, winning 3-1 on aggregate. And then, like you say, a 1-1 away in Slovenia before a 1-0 defeat at home in Helsinki, and playing at the Bolt Arena because their own ground is just not up to scratch.
Yeah, it's one of these things. I think it's happened before, and there's always talk about, that some Honka about 6 or 7 years ago virtually went out of existence and reformed and were owned by a separate company. But I think there's some questions around investment in their ground and stuff. And I mean, to be honest, it's quite common. I mean, as you know, HJK played there was it in the Champions League when they were in that season?
Yeah, that was about 5 years ago now. Yeah.
Yeah, and I think KuPS did about 2 or 3 years ago. They played a European game there, and of course, speaking of KuPS, they had to play their last home game at the Olympia Stadion in Helsinki.
Yeah, why was that?
So they're the Conference League regulations, obviously, I guess written on a fag packet in crayon, but their arena, which has been renamed as something this season, it's that didn't meet the criteria to host a third qualifying round. So,
right, okay.
So they asked UEFA for an exemption, which UEFA agreed to, but the other team, Astana, said no, because they have to agree to it as well. So, and to be honest, logistically, if you're flying from Kazakhstan, it's easier to go to Helsinki. You're putting the home team at a disadvantage. It was a shame because KuPS have been on a good run. To get to this stage.
Let's just mention how that's gone. So in the first round, they played Noah from Armenia and won 6-0 on aggregate with a heavy 5-0 win at home. Then in the second round, they were playing Vorskia from Ukraine, 2-2 in the first leg, and then a 3-2 win in the second leg. But it was quite dramatic, wasn't it?
Yeah, there was after extra time. It was a good result. I mean, going to a team from Ukraine, they've got a pretty strong domestic league, and I think 2-2 because they conceded, I think, the equaliser in the home leg in injury time, and then going to Ukraine and I mean it was a great result. Winning there and then securing this tie against Astana.
Because Astana is a team that we've started to see appearing quite regularly in later stages of European competitions in the last few years. Yeah,
they knocked HJK out of the Champions League qualifiers a few years ago. It was one of those. Got quite viral because friend of the show Archie, who's a HJK fan, was the only travelling fan.
Yes, I remember that.
And he had about 40 local soldiers escorting him around. But
he's a bit of a handful, is Archie.
He's also the one, if anyone's seen the picture of a fan falling out of the stand at HJK face first, that was him.
So the soldiers are probably there waiting to catch him.
But I mean, as we see for a lot of the clubs in that region, that they're quite well funded. I'm not going any further into that, but it's they drew 1-1 at home, and the second leg's to come this week. So, and I think the winner of that will play Union Berlin in the playoff round. So Union Berlin was the club that Joel Poyampalo was at last season on loan. They finished 7th in the Bundesliga. So that's a pretty juicy tie.
In theory, they're the kind of junior Berlin team, aren't they? But they're doing a lot better than Hertha in the last few years.
I think it was either the first year they'd been promoted or the first year they'd been up in a long time last season. And they came 7th, and they're one of these very sort of popular clubs, and I think a lot of people were happy to see them do well and break into that kind of that group. And I mean, obviously, when you look on the flip side, Spurs are also in the playoff round, and they're potentially playing a team from Northern Ireland who've never played European football before. So that just goes to show the calibre of this competition. But I think it's been great so far.
Spurs haven't played that much European football lately either.
Well, no, you need to win trophies sometimes to qualify, don't you? But
I think people in Arsenal-shaped houses shouldn't throw stones, Rich, this year anyway.
We won an FA Cup last year.
That's true. That's true.
And this competition, I think, it's been maligned, and especially from the countries, like England, Germany, Spain, whatever. But countries like Finland, those the domestic leagues that have performed not so well in European competition, it's been really popular. I think there's been a lot of caveats to it. I mean, the away goals has caused a lot of positive issues. I think it's made games more open. Teams are kind of thinking, this is our first chance, let's go for it. And I think, it'll be interesting to see where it goes in the next 3 to 5 years. But I think having that, those teams in there, and it's a bit like the Nations League. You're not playing, Barcelona, Real Madrid, PSG, whatever, but you're more likely to play teams a little bit lower down the pyramid. So I'm thinking it might be positive. And Finland's results overall, and I do like to talk about a coefficient. Finland's results have been better this year than they have been for a while.
I mean, the Finnish teams in these European competitions.
Yeah. So I think on the whole, the performance has been better. I mean, we talk about a really low baseline because the performance has been so dreadful, but they've been generally better. So I think they've risen up a few places in the kind of league rankings. But again, we're talking, I think they're now 43rd or 44th out of 55 odd leagues, but still not great.
Both of these games are played on Thursday the 12th. The two remaining teams in this, so that's HJK at home to Neftchi. Now I've put all these fixtures and scores and everything in the show notes. So if you look at wherever you're listening or watching this, click on the link just in the description there. It will take you to the notes, and it's got the links and actually the scores and everything in there. So it says 7 o'clock, and I'm not sure if that's 7 o'clock local time here or British summertime or whatever it is, but
I think the KuPS game tomorrow on Thursday is at 2 p.m. UK.
Oh, so that's 4 p.m. over here. Okay.
Over here, yeah, because it's
so the times in the blog post are Finnish local times. Okay.
Yeah. So it's the HJK game's at 7 local time.
Yeah. Okay. So HJK have a 2-2 aggregate score going into the second leg against Neftchi, and KuPS have a 1-1 aggregate score going into the second leg with Astana. So
it's a shame because Astana equalised in injury time. So again, it's one of those. There seem to be a lot of late goals in these games, but so that's evened things up. And again, on the flip side, it's nice that there's no away goals now. So I was hoping to wear my KuPS shirt, but I ordered it 2 weeks ago and it only got posted yesterday. So having been in the KuPS management office, I've seen what a complete and utter shambles it is. So it doesn't surprise me in the slightest. It took them 2 weeks to put a football shirt in a jiffy bag.
Find the order. They really should consider partnering with TeePublic, but we'll get on to our sales section in a little while. All I would say is that as well as sort of following Rich on Twitter at Escape to Suomi, maybe find the Finnish Football Show Instagram account, because Keke, I think, has been doing. I mean, I think he's done a really good job with that since he launched it. But recently, he started highlighting results for the Finnish teams, so in Europe and in the Veikkausliiga, as well as notable sort of goal scoring or performances from Finnish players overseas as well. And to my shame, I have to say, quite often I see some of these results for the first time when Keke shares them on Instagram. I never thought I'd be getting my news from Instagram, but that's the way it's the way life has taken me. All right, let's move on then. And you mentioned this, Rich, the other day about Brexit transfer troubles. Joni Kauko mentioned that in our recent In Conversation episode that he would have loved to have played in the UK, but because of Brexit, he didn't think that was going to happen, and that led to him taking the contract, the deal in India for this winter. And you mentioned that it was starting to make moves to the UK more difficult for Finnish players. I mean, obviously all EU players, but we're the Finnish Football Show. Yeah,
I mean, we're also in the kind of joint throes of COVID too, but Juhani Aujala has recently signed for Motherwell. We talked about him. He just missed out on the Euro 2020 squad, but he signed there after leaving his club in Denmark. And that move took a long time to be processed because it wasn't just quarantine issues, but there's also now they have to get work permits, like in the old days of non-EU players and stuff like that. So that took, I think, around 10 to 12 days to get processed. Now, in his case, he's an international footballer. He's got, I can't think the number off the top of my head, but he's got several caps. He's not a one cap wonder or anything. On the flip side of that,
might not be getting many more though after his outburst in the summer.
Well, yeah, but I think that's kind of water under the bridge. I think all parties have kind of said, it's happened, and he's available for selection.
Okay,
Canada has said that, so he's available if needed. But the work permit and conversely the quarantine side is now affecting moves. Eetu Virtanen has been on the cusp of a signing for St Johnstone for about 3 weeks now from Ilves, but he, after passing quarantine, is still waiting for a work permit to come through. Now, St Johnstone they won both Scottish Cup competitions last year. They drew Galatasaray in Europe last week, and but he's sitting there basically on his hands doing nothing, waiting for a work permit to come through. And obviously, and he's not available to Ilves either, waiting for a work permit. And someone we talked about a lot last year, Ilmari Niskanen, who moved from KuPS to Germany after making his international debut. This hasn't been confirmed, but there's strong rumours that he's on the cusp of signing for Dundee United. And again, there's issues around work permit. I think he got 2 caps for Finland in the autumn in the Nations League after his breakthrough, and then his move to Germany basically wiped him off the map. And he was one of those unfortunate people who'll have a Panini sticker in the Panini book, but never got called up for the Euro squad. So it's a shame, but it's starting to become an issue. We spoke to Joni about it, and it's something that in the UK had taken for granted for a long time. And obviously Brexit now is, it's happened. UK is not in the EU, and these things have to go through again. And even players of high profile will have to get work permits in. We're so used to it not being an issue before, or certainly for the last sort of 15, 20 years.
I wonder how this will also, there's clearly going to be a much longer term impact. There's been people bemoaning that, cheap players from cheap foreign players coming in, and the British kids can't get a chance, and blah blah blah, and that may be true. It remains to be seen if in 5, 10, 15 years time what kind of impact this has. I wonder also about the likes of Marcus Fors and Jaakko Oksanen, who are they're both at Brentford at the moment, and how does that affect them going forward? Maybe not, but it should affect the next generation of young players like that.
Yeah, because a lot of players have, we've talked about many times, players moving abroad at 15, 16, going to all the countries around Europe, and a lot have gone to the UK and done well, not so well. Force in particular is one of those who has done well. If it's going to be difficult for them to move to the UK, and I'm not 100% sure around the regulations around children either, because Force moved here for West Brom, I think, when he was 15. So he's been in the UK for quite a while now. But that then is going to become an issue, because if they get offered potentially a role at an English club or a German club or a Dutch club or whatever, what's going to be the least hassle? That's got to be something that's got to be baked in as well. And we've jested on social media around how we were hoping to see a renaissance of Finnish players in Scotland. That was quite a big thing in the 90s and the 2000s. But if work permits are going to become a stumbling block over these transfers, then it's something to consider. Virtanen started the season really well for Ilves and hasn't played for him now for about, I think, 3.5 weeks, waiting for this move to go through. So he's not doing anything for anyone. If Ilves get a transfer fee, great, but it's just difficult now. We're seeing the logistics of politics and that, which I tend to avoid for various reasons, but it's now impacting Finnish football. So the tentacles are everywhere.
Keke's Instagram reminds me from time to time that there are a few Finns already up in Scotland. If these 3 join as well, then we might need to find a Scottish correspondent to give us a bit of a regular update on what these guys are doing up there.
think so. I mean, I'm drinking out of a can of Iron Brew as we speak.
It's-
This is my job interview, but it's strange. I mean, you know, we look back on the growing up in England in that era in the 90s and that, when there were a lot of Finns over here, and there aren't so much anymore, and the way that markets change and stuff. But yeah, it was always fun turning on and seeing, you know, Shefki Kuchi was up there, and Bixu Patalainen, who now speaks with quite a heavy Scottish accent. It's interesting, and I do hope that there is, you know, if the dust settles or if there's things still to sort out, that's something that comes back again.
Maybe we should answer this question that came to you from Tom Taylor on Twitter. Thanks, Tom. It says, it's transfer season with a few big moves having happened, or maybe in the process of happening, to the UK, and many more to come. Who do we think are going to be the biggest breakthrough Finnish stars in the next season?
Well, one player who has kind of been on the radar of a lot of people for a while, Anssi Suhonen, he moved to Hamburg. Well, I think he was like 14 or 15. He's now, I think he's 20, and he just made his debut for Hamburg on Sunday, just gone. And I think, Finland have been producing a lot. Finland have always had goalkeepers, for example, but they've been producing a lot of, in their youngsters, of these kind of very technical, because they're growing up in big European academies, so they've been very proficient. You know, Kamara is probably the best example. But they're producing a lot of midfielders who are very good on the ball, looking to go forward. You know, we had discussions before the Euros around players like Valakari and Taylor and all that, Robin Lod. And he, you know, coming through at Hamburg, who admittedly got relegated into the second Bundesliga last year, but are a massive club. And coming through now, making his debut, a lot of people have been following him. I think he's one that I'd be interested to see whether the hype is worth it, if it's justified. I think he's very well thought of. And there's also a player who, as we speak now, Chelsea are playing in the UEFA Super Cup final. And one of the goalkeepers in the squad that they've taken to Belfast for the final is Lucas Bergstrom, who's a goalkeeper there who's, again, very, very highly thought of. And I think one of his ex-coaches has basically said he's got the potential to be as good as Lukas Radetsky, which is praise indeed. And again, there is the kind of caveat that he's in the squad at Chelsea where players go to end their careers when they're 15. You know, he's played a lot of youth football for them. There have been a few Finnish players there, and he seems to be the one who's very highly thought of. And if he can get through, and I mean, there's a long way to the first team from where he is, and I imagine I can see many, many loans in his future. But I think, again, another player who will be interesting to see where he goes. It may not be Chelsea, but I think at the age that he's at, and to be in that squad to go into a Super Cup final will be a good experience for him.
If this summer is anything to go by, then where he will be loaned to in a few years' time is AFC Wimbledon, because not only have we loaned a player from Chelsea this year, we also bought a young player, and it's been many years since Wimbledon bought a player, but also took one of their academy coaches on loan into the AFC Wimbledon first team, okay, which is intriguing, really interesting way that things are being done down there. Yeah, I was thinking also. I mean, we know him. We talked about him for a while, but Marcus Forss is now in the Premier League. If you're talking about breakthroughs, there will be a lot of people that watch, only the top leagues around the world, and he's going to have a battle on his hands for his place, and Brentford are going to have a battle on their hands for every point next season. But that could be one person to watch out for. And at the start of this year, we and the Finnish Football Show, we were approached by someone offering us an interview with Pyry Hannola, who had just moved from HJK to HJK on loan. And we didn't really know what to do with him, if we're completely honest. We knew who he was, but, he was 18, 19, just moved. And, we wanted to... Well, we didn't know what to do with that kind of interview, but I've watched him all season, and he's a terrific player. I would love to see him stay, but I suspect the next season he'll be back down in Helsinki and maybe get a season in the HJK midfield. I'm not sure if I mentioned this before, but HJK have been playing with a central midfield that is a permutation of Hannula, Jude Arthur, Noah Laine, and Daniel Hawkins, I think, have been playing in there as well. And there's 3 Finnish kids, 1 Ghanaian. I think the oldest one is 22 and the youngest one is 18. And that's been the 4 central midfielders this year. And they've held, they held HJK until the 92nd minute before going down 2-0 in the home game. But they were comfortable, and they did well also in the away game that finished in a draw as well. So Puru is well worth watching out for, developing in 2022 as well.
Yeah, and I guess, we're talking domestic players. I mean, HJK have signed a promising central midfielder in Tim Sparv. So
that's right. He's got potential, that lad.
As a coach, definitely.
Yeah. Any other sort of notable transfers, Rich?
I mean, when we're talking domestically, AC Oulu went out and they had a right splurge when the window opened. They signed 5 players, and I think in the first game against HJK, they won 2-1, and I think all 5. Sorry, at 4, because they had 4 at the time, and they since added another one. All 4 were on the pitch, and they beat HJK. It's their first defeat of the season. And one of them was a very familiar name in Sergei Eremenko, who has returned. He's on loan from his Latvian club. But they've been really busy. They also signed Usman Saleh from KuPS. They were busy. They've won, I think, 2 games now since this glut of players have come in. HIFK, I was going to say the name that we're banned.
Don't do it, Rich. Don't do it. They'll be after you. They'll
find us. Yeah. They made a really big signing. They signed Kay Kamara, who was a legend in Major League Soccer. He scored over 100 goals for various clubs over there. He's 37 in a couple of weeks. So it's interesting to see how this develops. I think his contract is only till the end of this year with an option for 2022. And you wonder what the angle for that is, but he's got a lot of pedigree. He's proved himself over his career being an excellent goal scorer. And then, HJK signed Tim Sparv on a free transfer. We did wonder where he'd go. He has said that he's looking at coaching as part of the reason why he's gone there, and the setup that they have, and being in Helsinki. He's said he's still available for selection for the national team as well. The World Cup Qualifiers coming up. He hasn't made his debut yet. I guess still, after the summer with the Euros and things like that. But it's interesting to see where that goes, because he's so experienced. He hasn't played in Finland for 13 years when he had a loan spell in Vasa in 2008. So it'd be interesting to see where he settles in. But definitely a marquee signing for them. It'd be interesting to see where he goes. And special mention, Tim Väyrynen, who we talk about a lot, has signed for KuPS. He was the top goal scorer in Veikkausliiga, I think, in 2014. And he was last spotted at a club in Albania after leaving HJK. Went there, did sweet FA, and has come back to KuPS. So it'll be interesting to see what shape he's in, what his role in the team will be. He's a decent centre forward, but he's not had a good run of form. So on his day, very, very good, and we'll score some goals for him.
Very good. The referee's about to blow his whistle for half time. And we're going to tout the Finnish Football Show store on TeePublic. I today have my hashtag FFS team colours shirt. I've been thinking about this. I think that we're going to have a new design for each season. So when the new teams come along each season. We'll add their colours and we'll change the design. And in future, I'm going to put the year in the design as well. We make these things collectible. They're certainly collectible at the moment. There's only about half a dozen shirts in existence, and most of them belong with the host of the show. So the story's on tpublic.com. It's a Finnish football show. If you search for us on there, we don't control the prices. The prices go up, the prices go down. There are quite regular promos on there, so it's well worth keeping your eyes peeled. Normal prices are about 17 euros plus postage. Sometimes they're 12 euros plus postage, and we get a little cut of that, which goes towards help the running of the show, and also a couple of ways that you can just donate to the show. We've had some very generous donations in the past at buymeacoffee.com/FFS podcast. I think it's slowed up a little bit over the summer, Rich.
Yeah, I mean, we had some very, very generous donations. We paid for, I think one of them paid for the majority of Keke and mine bar bill. For
Was that one that came in cash while you were at the bar? Or?
Yeah, that was the Denmark game. But yeah, no, that was very generous. And yeah, it's been, and a lot of it, again, it's paying for things like podcast hosting, Zoom, all that kind of stuff. So it's all really, really like makes a big difference to us.
We don't have a Jasilla Sipuli this week because Mark did suggest a word, but then I forgot to ask him what it meant. So we'll just hold that over till next time and crack on with the second half, and just look at the World Cup qualifiers coming up. Obviously, not much has happened. Well, with regards to the World Cup, not much has happened since March. But just as a reminder, Finland drew 2-2 at home with Bosnia-Herzegovina before getting a 1-1 draw away to Ukraine. And again, all of this information, the fixtures, the results, and the table, Group D in the World Cup 2022 qualifiers, are all in the blog post. But coming up in September, so as is now traditional, there's September, October, November, two kind of double headers, if you like. So 4th of September, Finland against Kazakhstan, that's at home, and then a few days later on the 7th, away to France. And I think we'll try and get together. Maybe do we get together before or after? Let's see. I have to remember what we did earlier in the year. If we did a bit of previewing by sort of Mark's blog post and then got together and talked about the results afterwards.
Yeah, because there is the friendly match against Wales on the 1st of September.
Oh, okay, good you mentioned it.
And yeah, so I mean, in the past we've kind of done a mixture of all. Really,
yeah, we have. And
I guess this will be, hopefully, the run up to that'll be, the start of the autumn when the games actually come quite thick and fast.
Yeah.
Triple headers of the thing, and also the thing about the Kazakhstan game is that will be the first time in Finland that a game will be played featuring VAR. So
interesting. Okay.
Yeah, because VAR was pre-COVID anyway, supposed to be starting in the Veikkausliiga next year. I'm not sure if that's still the plan. Part of the work that they're doing, because UEFA or FIFA, I can't remember who are dealing with these qualifiers, have said that World Cup qualifiers will now use VAR. And there are very few Finnish officials, match officials, who've got experience of using it. So I think they're going to be using that. Every referee, assistant, fourth official will be in that stand watching and trying to learn and pick up tips and everything. But so that's kind of a red letter day, I suppose, in one way.
Yeah, because VAR did kind of sort its life out a little bit during the Euros, and there was a different. Somehow it wasn't so heavy. It was better organised, and I've heard Mike Riley, the kind of head of the referees, who seems to have instigated the whole VAR thing, saying that they want that to be the way that things go in the future, so it becomes a much lighter touch.
Yeah, I mean, the thing is, obviously, different leagues have different interpretations, and I think generally in England, it's been used a bit too much and it's been a bit too critical. And I think in the Euros, it was they did tend to go more with what the referee saw on the pitch, and they stuck a bit more to the whole idea of a clear and obvious error and things like that. So one does hope that, I mean, obviously we don't really care too much about the Premier League here, but when the dust settles, and if it does come to Veikkausliiga, we'll see. I mean, Finnish referees aren't exactly lenient anyway, but yeah, it'll be interesting to see how it works. I mean, I've been in grounds where there's been VAR and it's weird, so it'll be interesting to see some Finns get the experience. But as Keke shared with us earlier, they've banned away fans for the next round of World Cup qualifiers.
Yes.
So, funnily enough, Keke and I were actually discussing going to France to watch the France-Finland game, albeit that was when it was in Paris. It's since moved to Lyon. But now, yeah, they've said there won't be any away fans allowed in.
Was it for the next rounds, or was it for the rest of this year?
At the moment, it's just the next round, so
Okay.
the September matches. So
Yeah.
I guess they'll make decisions as they go along. But yeah, so for this triple header anyway, albeit the two World Cup qualifiers, there won't be away fans in the stadiums.
Okay, so I guess watch this space, and we'll keep you updated when we know what's going on. Not that we know much, but when we do, we'll share.
We're glorified translators. We'll pass it on.
Exactly, yeah. Finland at the moment, having played those two games, 2 points. They're third in the group. So it's France at number 1 with 7 points, Ukraine second with 3, Finland third with 2, Bosnia-Herzegovina fourth with 1 point, and Kazakhstan fifth also with 1 point. So there's a gap, but it's also second to fifth. There's only a couple of points in it at the moment. So let's see how things go during the autumn. Okay, the final section today is when there's only two of us, we rip through these recordings. When there's more people having their say, it seems to take a little bit longer. Funny that. Is to look at the Veikkausliiga recently. And I think either you posted in a chat or you tweeted, Rich, that it's quite tight for the European qualifying places, and also quite tight for relegation places as well.
Yeah, at the moment, at the time of recording, HJK have a 9-point lead over KuPS in second. So again, we still haven't had full confirmation of what the plan is for the league. We've hardly had any COVID postponements yet. I think we've only had 1 or 2 so far this season. So I think the original plan was to run with the 27 matches. But yeah, 9-point lead is going to be difficult, and that. But yeah, the kind of the next round, or the next group of teams below, they're quite close, and they're quite interchangeable. And I guess from HJK's benefit, they're all taking points off each other. There's a lot of draws. KuPS and Lahti drew at the weekend. Into HJK are there as well. They're not too far behind. And then conversely, at the flip side of that, at the bottom of the table, you've got 4 teams within 4 points of each other. They've all started picking up the odd point here and there. I think they've all had bad runs. Hacker scored their first goal in nearly 500 minutes at the weekend. Oulu hadn't won until they beat HJK. KuPS have just changed coach. They've made a couple of signings in the window, including one which some people recognise the name of Juan Esnaider, and I had to Google that it wasn't the one who played for Real Madrid in the 90s. Apparently it's his son, but so they've signed him. But yeah, it's interesting because you've got the bottom team will go down, and then the second bottom will play a playoff against the second team in Ukkonen, so it's not a guarantee. But yeah, these that will probably be where the drama goes, to be honest, especially when the league splits after, in theory, 22 games. But then you've got Honka and Ilves, who are traditionally do slightly better. They're also in the bottom 6 as well, as it stands.
That's
so,
our Mariehamn as well. Veikkausliiga winners 4 years ago, and
yeah, well, they had that good start. I think they won their first 2 games. We started praising how good they were looking for the season. They didn't score for 9 matches and didn't win for 9 matches either. So
no, that's right. They've only scored 9. They're the lowest scorers in the league. They scored 9 in 14 so far this season. That is not championship winning material. I have to say, we a few weeks ago, maybe 3 weeks ago, HJK played Oulu at home, and we scored twice in the first 17 minutes, and it was fun. We were doing all the party songs in the first half, and that didn't sit comfortably with me after the last few years, but it was fun. And then in the second half, they pulled it back to 2-2, and even though we won right at the end, it somehow felt a little bit flat, like we could have let that get away from us. And then came out afterwards and looked at the league table, and we were third, and I had no idea we'd managed to climb quite up to the heights of third place. And as you say, there's 4 teams really. HJK have played a game more than HJK in 6th, but HJK are 5th on 24 points, and have a game in hands over some teams because the HJK game was postponed due to COVID. If we can win that, put 7 points between HJK and HJK, then it is really, then there's a gap, and for 2nd to 5th could be battling out for those European places, which is it's a much more positive second half of the season than I've experienced in recent years. That's for sure.
Yeah, I mean, you have so KuPS already have a European place from winning the cup. So it will be KuPS plus the next 2 teams. Although, no, that's a point, isn't it? They tried a Europa League playoff a couple of years ago. That was
something, wasn't
convoluted shambles. And I think it ended up being like a team that were in 8th. I think the team that come top of the relegation table are involved in the Europa League or the European playoffs. And they didn't play it last year because of the season was called off early. But I wonder if they're going to do it again this year. I need to double check that. Yeah.
Where do you get your information from, Rich? Because you seem to know stuff that I certainly don't.
I read. I'm those people who read the terms and conditions. I do follow the Veikkausliiga press releases and stuff.
Okay.
But it was two years ago they tried it, and it just went on and on and on, this playoff system. And it is weird. And I know it's there to keep some interest at the end of the season for the team that in theory finishes 7th. But yeah, so Finland again next season will have 3 teams in the Conference League and a team in the Champions League. So it's a strange one. And I'm sure as we get towards the business end, we'll confirm that and clarify, and we'll see who the makers and shakers are. But it'd be interesting if Lahti, we've always kind of joked about them just being, if you look in the dictionary under mid-table mediocrity, you'll see the weird, ridiculous club logo badge of FC Lahti. And now, they're 3rd as we speak. They lost their star player, Asanoon, who's gone to Holland and started really well. So I guess shows what he was capable of.
Lahti are really solid, but really unexciting. Sorry, Lahti fans. and yet HJK can't ever beat them. So who's the loser?
Well, but we'll see. There's still a long way to go, and as the plan is, there'll still be 27 games. So in theory, still 12 rounds of matches to go. Yeah,
we're about halfway, just over halfway through, aren't we? So the top scorers after the most recent set of games is Filip Valencic at HJK, played 15, scored 6. No one's smashing in loads of goals this year. Next is Benjamin Chelman from Inter with 6 out of 15 games, and Gineidu Jeffrey from Lahti, 5 from 15, and Asanoon, who you mentioned, who's obviously not going to get any more than 5 from 10, but still, that's maybe why Lahti are up there. They got two players in the towards the top of the goal scoring charts.
Yeah, and Vertainen, who's presumably on the cusp of moving. It's one of those things. I mean, I did see a conversation. I think Cameron from Nordic Footy was talking about top goal scorers in the Nordic leagues, and it came up that there's very rarely a goal scorer in the Veikkausliiga who goes on and scores. I mean, Morelos, I think he got almost a goal a game in his full season at HJK. But other than that, you're lucky. You normally get maybe 16 or 17 goals from your top scorer. And bear in mind, we're over halfway through, and Valencic has 6. It's it'll be interesting to see where that goes. I think a lot of players are spreading a lot of goals. Plus, there's not as many goals. Let's be honest. If in Maraham they scored 9.
I've just noticed there that in the top 10, I've put it in the notes there that down to all those players that scored 4, so there's 10, and in there is Diogo Thomas from KuPS, who, as well as being a giant, is a centre-back, and he's right up there. He's 6th in the scoring charts with four goals. Headers or long-range screamers, or is he just one of these goal-scoring centre-backs?
Yeah, he's always of a danger. I mean, I'm not sure if you remember when they played at HJK a couple of months ago, he was the one that gave away a stupid penalty in the last minute, which I think the keeper then saved. So he's a bit of a wild one. But yeah, no, he pops up. I think he scored one or two in the Conference League already as well this season. So just a danger at both boxes, to be frank.
Yeah, seems to be. So Veikkausliiga continues again, I think this Friday 13th or Saturday the 14th. I'm going to the football on Saturday. I've got a quandary. It's AFC Wimbledon's first home game in front of a full crowd in the league back at Plough Lane on Saturday at 3:00. So subscription sorted and ready to watch it. But HJK are at home to Honka, and I've got to go to the stadium. We've been banned. We weren't banned from stadiums, but people haven't been able to get to the stadiums. So what do? Watch English football on TV? I really want to see it, or go to the ground. So I'll be there. I'll be wearing this T-shirt at the game on Saturday, and I'm going to try and have a bit of a news blackout from Southwest London and watch the game on demand later in the evening as live.
That works. I'm health depending. I'm planning on going to Brentford Arsenal on Friday evening. I've never been to Brentford.
Oh yeah, because that's a new stadium as well, isn't it?
Yeah, so I never got to Griffin Park, and it'd be interesting to go to their new ground. Also supposed to be spending a day at the cricket, so we'll see what state I'm in by the time we get to West London. But
so a day at cricket, and maybe we shouldn't have this in the podcast. Maybe we should edit this out of the show.
I won't be drinking. It's fine. But yeah, no. So I'll go and see if Marcus Force gets any minutes after we try to sponsor his bootlaces, which failed miserably.
And I got sent away with a flea in area.
One thing I will shout is the Ykkönen, the second tier or first division or however it's where. It's really, really close throughout the whole division. I think at one point it's a 12-team division. The top 10, I think, was separated by about 4 points at one point. It's spread out a little bit now, but even so, the team who are leading are ROPS, who've got 26 points, but they've played 2 more games or 1 more game than most. They've had a few more COVID postponements, but it's really, really close in that division. You've got, big clubs who've been in the Veikkausliiga in our time. You've also got Klubi, who are HJK's junior farm team, whatever. Now, for obvious reasons, they can't get promoted. They are currently bottom, but they picked up a big win at the weekend, and it's really close. I mean, TPS, I think, was it their first home win they picked up last weekend? I think Jonas and Johansson have been under a little bit of pressure. They hadn't scored many goals. They were less than a goal a game, and they've just signed Kasper Hämäläinen, who former Finland international, has returned home, and it's interesting there. And one thing I did mention as well, there was a free kick goal in the Kansallinen Liga, the female top division at the weekend. Julia Heinonen scored a laser-pointed free kick into the top corner. And it's something we talked about, that there have been some really, really good goals. And because all of these games are televised or streamed anyway, they're all available within sort of seconds, minutes are going in. And I guess a lot of Finnish clubs do like to go viral for many things, but it's nice to see, the second division, the women's division, they're all getting these high profile goals and getting some good coverage. So it's really good fun.
It was an amazing goal as well. And I think I saw it from Keke on Instagram. And then a couple of days later, it was also shared by Buri. So good to see Keke getting in there with the breaking news from Liiga. And I'll also, now you've mentioned it, I'll put the league table for Ukkonen in the notes as well, so you can see. But it's exciting up there. And I think that's probably just about it, Rich. I've lost my. Here we go. So I was fiddling and managed to lose my place. Just the final full-time following section. And this week you suggested Michael Bailey from the Athletic magazine. So he's at Michael J. Bailey on Twitter. Why do you recommend people follow him? Well,
with Norwich returning to the Premier League, a lot of people in Finland have suddenly become Norwich fans over the last 3.5, 4 years. And to be fair, Michael has done interviews with a lot of people at the club. There was a lot of, the first interviews with Pukki after press conferences. There's a lot of exclusive stuff around Norwich, and there he shares a similar cynicism around some of Norwich's marketing and partnership work that I did, which was amusing. But it's there's a lot of stuff there, because a lot of people in Finland, because Teemu Pukki is really him, I suppose, and Hradecki, but Pukki is playing centre forward for a team in the Premier League. It's the last time Norwich went up, he really started the season off well before tailing off, and I think he got a hat-trick in his second Premier League match. And we found over the years a lot of people have started following Norwich. So if you're interested in how Norwich or Pukki are doing, then Michael's a good one to follow. And if you have a subscription for the Athletic, I don't have any offers, but there's usually some good stuff in there as well.
I share your cynicism about this Norwich loves Finland thing as well, and I refuse to buy the Norwich City beer. I'm not having it. I'm not falling for that.
Are you not going on a tourist spot to the park in Kotka where they planted 26 trees in honour of his 26 goals last season?
Absolutely not. I've done my travelling this year, and it took me to Hayton's backyard, and we had a nice evening on the river and had a hug, and it was absolutely lovely. And I'm not travelling anywhere else for the foreseeable future anyway.
Yeah, it's probably safest.
All right. I think we're done. So remember to follow our Facebook page for content coming directly from the Finnish Football Show team, so our podcasts, and then the blogs that Mark does around the national team games. You'll also find a link there to the Facebook group where we share other stuff surrounding Finnish football world. And you can join in with a conversation or start a conversation. There's links to the Facebook page and group in the show notes, along with the Instagram page that we've bigged up today, the YouTube channel where you'll see this video and previous episodes, and the Sleeping Finnish Football Show TikTok. It's still there. Yeah, it's having a good nap, but if I can think of anything to put on it, to be honest, normally, actually, I think we did. What were quite popular were the clips from the YouTube over the summer. I think some of them, like the one of Keke slamming the Russians for various things, did quite well. Let's have a think if there's anything from today's show that's worth putting on. Anything controversial. That's always good. You can also follow us all on Twitter. I'm at Explore Finland. Rich, you are at Escape to Suomi. Mark H is at FC Suomi, and Keke is at Keke Mullari. But I reckon, Rich, we've done about an hour still with the two of us. So we're giving people their value for money. Lucky people. You lucky people. Until next show, thanks for listening. See you again soon. Bye-bye. Hey.